Hey everyone, Eddie Wilson here with Think Realty. Thanks so much for joining us for our refocus call. Always an exciting time for us when we get to broadcast out to our members. Many of you will join us live right now, and then we'll also be recording these and sending these out to all the Think Realty members that are a part of our premium membership here in the next day or so. So if you ever miss one of these, it will come out to you, that those of you that are a premium member. Again, the purpose of the refocus call is just for me to spend time with our membership. As the founder of Think Realty, it's my goal really to help you succeed in your real estate investing journey. And in order to do that, obviously I need to make sure that I'm connected with you and that I can help you in any way possible. Each month we prepare topics that I believe are necessary for where we are, either in the economic state of real estate investing, or they are particular to a time of year, or maybe emails or comments that we've received through social or through our website. And so today is a specific topic that I chose that I believe is necessary for real estate investors that I think will be helpful to you, and I think will help align you with your goals for this year. And so we'll jump into that in just a second. But by way of introduction, again, my name is Eddie Wilson, the founder of Think Realty, and also the CEO. I do want to make sure that you guys know that we have a great event coming up in Houston in the month of March. And if you haven't taken advantage of that, if you're in the Texas area, make sure that you sign up to be a part of that event. We've got some great talent, probably one of the greatest lineups of speakers and panelists that we've ever had. And we are so excited about our Houston event, really expecting a good crowd. Due to COVID and all the restrictions there, we're going to make sure that the crowd is a little bit smaller. We're capping that event, I believe, at 250 attendees. And our sponsors and partners on this event will put a lot of high-end real estate investors in there. So we're expecting Houston to be a real estate investor event that has a lot of people that are doing multiple deals every single year, that are more seasoned and savvy, maybe a little bit more sophisticated than our traditional crowd. We typically draw about 50% new people that are coming into the real estate investment space. And so we expect Houston to be a little bit different. So if you are a vendor, or you are a speaker, or you're an educator, we do have opportunities still left there. And if you're interested in that, make sure you reach out to us. Also, at the end of this, I'll make sure to answer any questions. So in the chat bar, make sure that you list any questions that you might have. It could be specific to Think Realty. It could also be specific to the content that I'm giving today. So let's jump into the content and to let's jumping into the actual content that I've prepared for you today. So today, because we're jumping into the month of February, which it's hard to believe that the year is already clicking by so fast. It's hard to believe that we're already in mid-February, being February 15th. Half of the month is already gone. Half of the first quarter is already gone. Crazy to believe that we're already there. And let me just see here if I've got the control to share my screen. I do. Wonderful. So we've got the topic today of making sure that your systems and processes are developed. Real estate investors as a whole, we see around the country, oftentimes forget that their real estate investments are also a real estate investment business. They oftentimes miss out on the fact that they should be running their real estate investments as a business, and making sure that their systems and processes are just as aligned as maybe the professional field that they're in. We know that at Think Realty that many of you that are real estate investors are also fully employed somewhere else. We have a lot of high net worth individuals, a lot of white collar workers, doctors, dentists, engineers that are all real estate investors that are a part of the platform. And I think sometimes we miss the fact that we really should be running our real estate investments as a business. And so we're going to walk into that. You might be a service provider as well to a lot of our clientele, and this will be a little bit of a refresher for you. But this is my passion as a real estate investor myself. and a business owner. I've had over 100 businesses in my lifetime. I've had over 4,000 employees. And the success of my life has been building the systems and processes necessary for the growth of those businesses. I have a product out there called Empire, which is a business operating system, because I'm so in tune with what it takes to actually build a business. I built my own curriculum that my own companies exist on, and many of the exits that I had over the past few years, those same principles were applied, and that is what allowed me to exit back then. And so I'm excited to share some of those today. I've got 3 points I want to make to you today, and then we'll open it up for discussions or questions. Let's see here. All right. So today we're going to talk about focusing on systems and processes to help you in your business or your real estate investment business. The first thing I want you to understand is to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Most businesses are keenly aware of the products or offerings that they have. But every single year, I go through a very typical process that many business owners also do, and you've probably seen this before. I go through what's called a SWOT analysis. If you have never gone through a SWOT analysis, I'll describe it briefly, and then I'll give you specific points towards this. A SWOT analysis is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You know, if you went through an opportunity like this, you know, at the beginning of your business or maybe a year ago, it's really important that you step back through this as a great business practice to do every single year. And as we are in this tumultuous time still with the COVID, you know, related issues in our marketplace, so important that we understand what it is that are our weaknesses and threats today. And so going through this process, I like to go through this in the first quarter of every single year on every single one of my businesses. Right now, I think I'm back up to 7 or 8, maybe pushing 10 businesses now. Had well over 80 some businesses just 2 years ago, had a massive exit. And but again, walking through and understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats is so important. So let me explain that to you just for a few moments. So strengths obviously are the things that set you apart. These are your unique selling opportunities. They're your unique market positioners. And so if you're a real estate investor, it's understanding the local market. It's understanding, it's having access to capital. It's strength of how you do business. It's your, it could be anything. It could be the general contractors that you have. It could be the technology that you've built to support it. It could be so many different things, the designs of your homes. You know, if you're a wholesaler, it could be the speed at which you close. If you're, you know, somebody that is renting, you're a buy and hold guy or lady, and it's the cleanliness of your units. It's the whatever your strengths are, we need to be keenly aware of them, because that really should tie to our marketing and our communication. It's not just important for our customers to know our strengths, it's also important for our employees to know our strengths. If you're a real estate investor, you should be hammering these strengths, these communication of your strengths to your the operators beneath you, to your subcontractors, to the marketplace, to the banks, to all the people that you do business with. Yes, it's important that it comes out in your marketing, and if you're buying distressed homes, that you're marketing and you're saying, hey, I close quickly, I close with cash, or whatever your communication is. But it's really important that everyone else understands that. And so I think oftentimes, because we market so well to our customers, our strengths come out in that, but oftentimes our employees have never heard what our strengths are, or what we think our unique positioners in the marketplace are. And so we need to list these out. We need to make sure that we're communicating these. Next, strengths, weaknesses. Where are your weaknesses? This is not specific to threats, or when we look at our competition. Weaknesses are not related to our competition. Weaknesses are those areas in business that provide the greatest amount of vulnerability. You know, your weakness might be that you're low on cash. It might be that You are over leveraged. It might be that you're struggling to find good contractors. It might be that you're struggling with a property manager, or you're not managing the properties yourself well, or you're a service provider that doesn't market well. Whatever those weaknesses are, we need to make sure that we're identifying them, and identifying them at least annually, because those are areas of opportunity. Depending on what phase of business you're in, those weaknesses need to be addressed. Early on in the startup phase of business, I always say that there are 5 phases of business. There's the startup phase, there's perseverance, or the pre-profit phase. Then there's profit. That's when you actually have repaid your initial investment. The owner is getting a commensurate salary for what a job he or she is doing. Then you have the expansion phase. That's the 10x, right? That's the scale. That's the holy grail of business. And then lastly, succession. What am I going to do with this business now that I hit scale? But if you're in the startup phase, I'm not so concerned about your weaknesses. You need to hone in and focus on the strengths that you have. When you get into phase number 2, which is perseverance, you really need to be keenly aware of your weaknesses. Oftentimes, the weakness of a business is cash flow, and cash flow is everything. Inside of phase number 2 and number 3, it's so much more important that we focus on cash flow than even profit. And then third, opportunities. These are the verticals and opportunities that I believe should be focused more on revenue generating activity. What opportunities could you go after? What relationships could you build on? I always put inside of my opportunities the big relationships that I should be capitalizing on that I'm not capitalizing on yet. Each one of us have relationships that if we focused on, we could maximize those relationships. And if we just focus on 2 or 3 of them, they'd make a massive impact on our business. I think of so many real estate investors that I spend time with, consulting and helping, and giving them an ear as they discuss and talk about where they are. And one of the great weaknesses of real estate investors are how they line up their capital. Do you know that oftentimes the capital is readily available? The capital is so important, but it's also everywhere. If you came to our American Association of Private Lenders events, you'd realize that their biggest issue is deploying capital. If I could just get the 2 groups together, I think we would make some major damage. And then lastly, threats. So strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. And so let's see here. So I want to look at you here for a second, but those are our 4. And when you get to threats, you really need to make sure that you're honing in on where your competitors are potentially going, that you're going at specifically with regard to where your potential competitors are going to find their way into your business and into your consumers or your customers' life. All of us have threats. That is the great thing, and also the scary thing about capitalism. Capitalism pushes kind of the survival of the fittest mentality, where if somebody can do it better, make it cheaper, build it cheaper, then there's a way and a place for that, or market it better. There's a place for that. And you need to make sure that you're keenly aware of the threats inside of your business. And I typically focus those thoughts on my competition. So that is the first thing I want to talk to you about, is doing a SWOT analysis. So important that we do a SWOT analysis each and every year. So we want to make sure we understand our strengths and weaknesses. That's doing a SWOT analysis. The next thing that I would encourage you to do in first quarter every single year is making sure that we are setting our 90-day goals, that you're setting goals for specific time periods. I think oftentimes I think it seems so rudimentary to say we should be setting 90-day goals. However, I know lots and lots of businesses that do not have a first quarter end goal. They're just going through the year haphazardly. They're not focused on what it is, the metrics that are going to get them to success. You have success in your mind, which is maybe profitability, or it's hitting a certain revenue goal, or it's whatever it is. And you may put this ethereal goal out of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, or even just the end of this year. I want to make profit. well, how much profit do you want to make? And how much, and what is it going to take to make that profit? How many sales is it going to take? How many houses is it going to take to flip? How many rentals what occupancy do you need to be at to get to profitability in your rentals? We need to make sure we're goal setting for 90 days. Let me show you how I set goals. So first of all, SMART is a acronym that EOS uses, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Traction. And it talks about the measurability, the applicability to, and you can look that up anytime, but basically SMART is helping me understand that, that I've got to get specific, I've got to get something measurable, I've got to get something applicable, and it goes down the line, but it's getting me focused on things that are attainable and reachable, but are actually not just this ethereal goal of like, I got to get to profitability. Okay, what is profitability? What's it going to take to get to profitability? So the way that I set my quarterly goals is something like this. I'm using a date. I'm putting revenue by it. Gross profit, net profit, so important in business today. Many of you know I have a coffee business, and that coffee business can look like it's doing a lot of revenue. However, I have big overhead in that business, and it's a commodity-based business. And so in a commodity-based business, you're buying things for $1 and you're selling them for $1.50, or you're selling them for $1.75. That's a commodity-based business. So understanding my net profitability is so important. I've heard so many real estate investors say, oh, I made $30,000 on this house, $20,000 on this house, but they didn't take into consideration their holding cost over a 6-month or a year time period. They didn't take into consideration their opportunity cost. They use their capital, and that capital sat, and there was other opportunities that they missed. What is your net profit? Then it's getting it down into measurables. What is going to actually generate that profit? How many bags of coffee do I have to sell? How many houses do I have to flip? How many units do I have to have rented out? And making sure, and then tying those measurables to the who. A goal is not a goal unless it's tied to a person. The person might be you, the person might be inside of your business. And so we want to make sure that those goals are tied to people. Everybody in your organization should have goals. You say, well, some of my people are more customer related, or they're more office related. Yes, and they should have goals. I believe very firmly that goals should be set across every single person in the organization. It takes a lot of work. I can be totally transparent with you and say that that's not truly the case in all of my businesses. I want it to be. I'm striving for it to be, but it's so important that people understand what it is that they're going after. So many people don't know what their goals are, what they're supposed to be achieving. You could set very simple goals, but each quarter you should go through the activity and just get into the rhythm of setting goals for the quarter, attaching them to people. This phrase we used to use in corporate all the time, there has to be one neck to choke. I know that's a little bit rough of a statement, but it always goes back to the buck stops somewhere. And so attach that goal to someone. That someone might need to delegate 100 items to get it done, but that should be attached to a person. And so make sure you're goal setting and set them for 90 days. I love the 90-day window because it gives a brief window into what our annual year might look like. And also, most of our businesses have seasonalities to them. And so because of seasons, we have hot times, we have low times. If you look at the business of Think Realty, even though we're speaking to you today, there's a business that's running behind it. We have an event business and a magazine and a web platform and affiliate program and discount programs. There's lots of components to it. But due to the nature of our events, that's a big spike in our activity, in our revenue, in our expenses during that time period. And so making sure that you're setting goals specific to that quarter is so vitally important. So that's number 2, is making sure that we're goal setting across all of these areas. And so you've got these SMART goals, we're attaching them, they're measurable. Don't just set goals like, I want to make sure that I hit this amount of money, or I want to sell this much. tie it to how many sales it takes, tie it to how many sales calls it makes, tie it to how many ads you have to run to get the apartment rented or the house rented. Tie it to very specific goals. And then lastly, regulating your meetings is so important. I find that one of the greatest wastes of time in business, and especially you go back to the times that I've had, many companies, 20, 30, 50 companies, thousands of employees, you realize how quickly it is inefficient to run too many meetings. Many of you are just, creating meetings to create meetings. Now, I will tell you that real estate investors as a whole are typically entrepreneurial. And because they're entrepreneurial, they love meetings. They feel like the more meetings they have, the more activity, the more progress, so on and so forth that's being made. And that's just not the reality. And so I want to give you a suggestion on types of meetings to have weekly. If you are struggling right now in your business, you're not finding profitability, I would recommend 2 meetings every single week. The first meeting is a little intense, and it's what I call a daily rally meeting. If you are struggling in any area, if your sales are behind, if your marketing is down, if you are not getting the productivity that you want, if you're a wholesale group and you're not getting the numbers you want, I would encourage you to do a daily morning meeting for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I call them daily rally meetings. And this is the actual meeting agenda that I put here on the screen. So in a daily rally meeting, you want to focus on today's obstacles. You're not talking about ethereal things, what's happening down the road, where are you going, what ideas does everybody have? It's like, what are you doing today? What are you doing today? What are you doing today? What am I doing today? Focusing on today's opportunities and focusing on today's productivity. These are 15 minutes, and I like to run these if I have a business that's struggling, and I have a business that's struggling right now. And I am asking the operator of this business to run these meetings. And I like them to be run 4 days a week. Oftentimes I'll take a break either on a Monday morning or a Friday morning. Then I'll do that just 4 days a week. But anyways, this is how I want the meetings run as the owner of the company. I ask them to be run like this. Give me your number today that makes you successful. I think that most businesses and most jobs can be boiled down to one number. I think one number should be focused on by all people. Now, it's different for every single employee. For a salesperson, it might be number of cold calls. For a customer service rep, it might be the number of calls that they take. For for whatever it is, for an admin or an assistant, it might be, whatever it is. And I like them getting down to one thing that makes them successful today. When we spread our people way too thin and we get 30 things on their plate, they struggle to know what it is that they need to do. And so I like getting it down to that. What's going to make you successful today? What obstacles do you have that I can remove for you today? So you're saying if I remove that obstacle and you can hit what you just said, we're successful today. Yes. Okay, awesome. Let's do that. I'll remove the obstacle, whatever it is. And that's what that 15 minutes are. Now, if you have more than 6 to 8 people in each one of these meetings, sometimes it's difficult to manage, but you need to break down into groups. And if I had a business that was really struggling today, I would start here, daily rally meetings. The second thing that you should focus on is weekly assembly meetings. If you follow EOS or Traction, you might call this a level 10. If you follow my Empire system, you'd call it an assembly meeting. If you follow the Advantage by Lencioni, you would call it your KPI meetings. I mean, whatever you want to call it, this is what needs to happen in this meeting. Remember, the last point I made to you was that you should be spending time looking at your 90-minute goals and making sure that these goals are SMART goals, that they have attached pieces of measurability to each goal. So number one, these weekly assembly meetings should focus on monthly execution. They should track monthly and quarterly goals. Where do you track the goals that you just set for those 90-day sprints? In this weekly meeting. If you say, in order for us to make $1 million worth of profit in first quarter, we need to generate 1,000 sales. then every single week you should be measuring how many sales you created to get to that 1,000 sales if your goal is to make $1 million. Make sense? And so you need to make sure that each week it's boiled down. And if you need I can always give you an example, and I'm happy to. Just let me know. You can email me at ewilson@thinkrealty.com, ewilson@thinkrealty.com, and I'll gladly share with you a Google spreadsheet that shows you this scorecard or the conquest report, as it's talked about on here, which is just measuring those weekly goals that lead up to that quarterly goal. 60 minutes, minimum one per week. We need to make sure that we are getting as much information into that meeting as possible. You need to stop the got a minute meetings. Those, hey, you got a minute, and then they last 45 minutes. It's not a minute. They're always at least a half hour. You need to make sure you're stopping those. You're creating efficiency in your business, that you're making sure that your meetings have a purpose and an agenda. Here's a great agenda that you can use for your business. So important that as a business owner, you're taking these three things and making sure that you're applying them to your business. I got to tell you that the real estate investors that that are measuring goals, treating their business like a business, are the ones that right now are crushing it. Like, there's plenty of opportunity out there. There are lots of businesses out there in our space that are just having the best year they've ever had. They're making more money than they've ever made. And by the way, the opportunity is coming. Like, there's more opportunity coming. I believe with all my heart that there's more opportunity than less opportunity in the days ahead. So many wholesalers I've talked to are already starting to see marketing towards the distressed homeowner working. They're already getting pre-foreclosure leads. Like, there's so much activity in our marketplace. There's more demand on housing. So renters are plentiful right now. Many landlords raising their rates even through COVID. So many opportunities, and we need to make sure that we're treating it like a business so that we take advantage of these opportunities and we stay focused on the goals that we want. Let me say one last thing, and then I'll open it up for questions. But first of all, if you value your time, I wrote a book last year called Time, Wealth, and Purpose, and it ties in some principles for real estate investing. And one thing that I said was one of the greatest gifts that my father gave me. My dad gave me lots of great gifts, and not many of them were monetary gifts. They were gifts like hard work and perseverance. They were gifts like an appreciation for hard work. There were all of those type of ideological gifts. But one thing that my dad said to me all the time is, if time is our greatest asset, then why don't we spend more time managing our time than managing our money? That is so, so important. However, as real estate investors, we actually look at money as the currency, right? And rightfully so, as the currency by which to determine whether or not we are making an impact or being successful. However, most of you didn't just get into real estate to earn more income. Most of you got into real estate because you wanted to earn more freedom. I would say that 90% of the people that I talk to at our events or different places, the reason that they are in the real estate investment space is so that they can gain freedom. They want to leave corporate America. They want a retirement. They want to be able to spend more time with their family. However, until you run an efficient business, you'll never have your time back. I say that, that passive real estate investing oftentimes is a farce. I'm a passive real estate investor, don't get me wrong. And I am not out, unclogging toilets and doing all the things that landlords do. However, I have in the past, and I did have to build my business that way. I was a landlord. I have many units now and property management in place. But the reality of it is there was a long time where I had to run my business like an efficient business. Now, the point being said and the point being made is that my business today, my real estate investment business runs like a business. There still has to be someone who's held accountable for unclogging the toilets. There still has to be somebody held accountable for collecting rents. Now, do I? No, I don't. I'm in a passive place in life where I don't have to. However, I had to build that business, that structure, that foundation, so that I can sit here and talk to you today versus going out and collecting rents for anybody that was late at the first of the month. And so, my business has been built, and it's principles like I just taught that create efficiency that give you back your time. My father would often say, I would say, well, I want to buy this car. And he would say, well, how much does the car cost? And I would say, well, it costs $3,000, $5,000, whatever it was. And he would say, no, based on the amount of money you make per hour, it's going to cost you 3.5 years of your life. The one thing that I was given by my dad that was so important was a healthy respect of time. Well, that's actually what drives me to be an efficient business manager, is because I respect my time so much. Time is so much more valuable than the amount of dollars in my bank account. You might say, well, Eddie, it's easy for you to say, you've been a successful investor. And yes, I do think that perspective has grown over time. However, it was my respect of time in the very beginning that put me in the place I am today. And so I'm going to open it up for questions. It's 4:33. I did pretty good in delivering the content in a half hour. But I'm just going to answer any questions you have for anybody that's live on the call today. So I have one question here. It says, what if I have zero business knowledge or background? What should I do first to make sure I'm running my investments as a company? Should I get formal business training or take a business class? So important. Great question. And I find so many real estate investors in this exact same place. So you basically have been an employee your whole life, or you've worked for a company and you've saved your money and now you've invested, and maybe you have a rental property or you're flipping a house or whatever that is, or maybe you've done many. But you don't have the business knowledge or acumen or structure that maybe a business owner would have. I would say, number one, I would get educated, and I would start in the area of finance first. You should make sure that you are operating your business as a separate company. You can go to our partner, Anderson Advisors, if you need help with that. But I would run my business first as a company. Having a separate LLC with separate bank accounts and a QuickBooks account, and making sure I'm running my finances and my accounting and everything like that properly is really the first step. If you are not doing that and you're just kind of running your rental properties through your own bank account, and you're doing lots of things like that, that would be the first step I would take. The second step I would take is, as you begin to build that business and you start maybe hiring an employee or two to help you with that business, I would go get an operating system. There are lots of them out there. I'm a little bit biased to the one I built, which is called Empire, and it's called empireoperating-system.com, empireoperating-system.com. But there's lots of them out there. There's the EOS system, or Traction. You can order the Traction book. There's The Advantage by Lencioni. There's Scaling Up, or Gazelles. There's so many operating systems out there. And I think it's an easy way to educate yourself on how to look at business. Most of these systems and programs are written in a way that you can understand them at a very base level. So if you don't have an MBA, or you don't have a business owner, you don't understand, I remember when I went from corporate, one of my greatest concerns was payroll. How do I know how much taxes to take out? And I remember thinking thoughts like that before I ever had a business. Well, I didn't know that there were systems out there that basically made that simple. Today, when I start a business, that's the least thing that I have the concerns about. Well, those operating systems will help you build that. So I'd start with finances, then I'd move into that operational structure, which there are a lot of business operating systems that can help you. So you don't have to have an MBA, you don't have to have run a business before, but they can actually help you run the business properly. And I think that's so important. Any other questions? Let's see here. I've got Q&A. Let's see here. What reports would you recommend to get a snapshot of your business? Great question. I love, number one, your basic reports that QuickBooks generates. So your P&L, question, or your P&L report, that's profit and loss. QuickBooks will generate for you automatically. Also, your balance sheet report. That's how much cash you have on hand. So managing your profit and loss and your balance sheet will help you at least understand your cash, your current cash position, as well as what I talked about earlier in that 90-day goal, which is your gross profit versus your net profit. Your profit and loss should show you the difference between just revenues gained, which would be gross, and revenues earned minus all of the things that it took to actually get to that profit, which is the net. And that would help you out tremendously. I would make sure you're running those two reports. I think it's important for you as you're in real estate to get down granular, down to the specific job report. I think understanding if you're a flipper or you're rehabbing houses, understanding the profitability of each individual unit versus just a collaboration of I've got 6 houses and I'm renovating 6 houses and I've got cash in the bank and I think I'm going to make profit. I would get it down, and in your QuickBooks account, if you use QuickBooks or any of the other accounting softwares, you can do the exact same thing. But I get it down and make sure that you understand it by unit, by house, by door, whatever you're investing in, to make sure that that profitability is being understood and realized inside each and every unit. Those reports are very, very important. Next question. Also, as an owner, how do you determine what meetings you need to be involved in and which ones you can skip? That's another amazing question. And so many different thoughts going into this. As a business owner, I play the role of the visionary. I think that Traction or EOS has done a great job at identifying what it takes to be successful in business, which they say that to be successful in business, you have to have a visionary and you have to have an operator or an integrator, someone who's going to integrate the vision all the way down into the tactical side. I think that question as to what meetings you should attend really is based on the integrator or the operator of that business. I think many of you, if you've heard me speak at all, know that I give a lot of props back to the operator of the American Association of Private Lenders and Think Realty. It's the same person. It's Linda Hyde, and she does a fantastic job. And it allows me to not have to be in every single meeting because she's already got my view of the vision and she's integrating it. She's creating the operational structure to make sure that my visions, passions, desires for where that business is going to go is being translated properly down to every single person inside of the organization. I'm lucky to have lots of great operators or integrators in my businesses, whether it's my coffee shop or my real estate investing business or my property management or AAPL or Think Realty. I have some amazing operators, and that has been the strength of how I've built many of my businesses. And so to the degree that I believe that my vision is being translated well, I can begin to remove myself out of it. And then I just want to stay inside of the vision activities. I want to make sure that I'm there, I'm casting the vision, I'm pushing us down the road in the goal setting. So every quarter as we're setting goals, the visionary should be active in that. They should be helping set those goals, right? Because that's visionary activity. Where are we headed? What point on the map are we trying to get to? However, I don't always attend my weekly meetings. I'll attend probably every other week or so for that assembly meeting I talked about, which is more of a tactical operational meeting where we're hitting goals, we're making sure that we're measuring what we're getting to, are we hitting, the metrics along the way to get to our goals. And so I don't necessarily attend all of those. I find myself to be disruptive in those meetings. If you're a visionary, if you're someone who's passionate and always driven and has the next great idea every 5 seconds, you can be detrimental to those meetings. And so if you're a visionary entrepreneur, oftentimes you need to trust that operator, that integrator in your business so that you don't go in and disrupt it all the time. If I sat in every single meeting, I have a great idea. I think it's great. Not all of my employees think it's great, but I have a great idea, I think, every 5 minutes. And so I want to, inject it in the meeting. Well, when I do that, it breaks down all of that systematic process that has to happen in a meeting, dealing with clients, following up with all the processes, marketing, sales, everything that we have to do on a daily basis. My visionary activity, when injected too much in the business for the purpose of just meetings, oftentimes break those meetings down. So I like to limit myself to those meetings. I try to stay as restrained as possible so that the operational structure can just stay intact and it's just happening. I'll observe, I'll kind of sit there. Many of the meetings I'll sit in, my staff that's actually on this call, they know this. I'll sit there and I'll just remain silent for most of the meeting. I'll chime in here or there if they need me, but for the most part, I try to stay restrained and not have a great idea on every single person that talks on the meeting and try to drive them towards something else that isn't relevant to the operational structure of the business. So from an operator standpoint, you should be in all the meetings. You should be in as many meetings as possible. That's kind of how that process works. The meetings are generated by you and managed by you. However, from a visionary owner standpoint, the more I trust that operator in my business, then I let them run it. If I'm still the operator, if it's still a small business and I'm the operator, I'm in all the meetings. If I have been able to hire someone to operate those businesses and it's profitable, then I start to remove myself out. I hope that helps. I've got just a few more minutes for any questions that might come in. I think I've answered all the ones that have come in so far. And I appreciate everybody that has been a part of this thing, of the refocus. So for me, I'll just give it 1 second and I'll make sure that I answer any questions that you might have. And by way of just promotion, while you're thinking of questions, I want to show you this real quick before we jump off. This is our Think Realty event coming up. And so this is coming up in Houston on March 26th and 27th. If you haven't signed up for this, make sure you go and sign up. You can purchase tickets if you're a premium ticket, or if you're a premium member that's on this call, you are entitled to those. And you can go here and you can see some amazing things. You've got some incredible speakers coming up. You've got Jason and Eddie Gant and just a ton of amazing speakers and content that's going to be there. Make sure that you are a part of Think Realty coming up in Houston on March 26th and 27th. I think I've hit all of the questions. I appreciate your time today. If you have any questions that you'd like to submit, you can always send those to me at ewilson@thinkrealty.com. I'll try to make sure that I hit those on the next Refocus phone calls. Again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy investing, and go out and find some great deals.